Things just got a whole lot more interesting for the New York Knicks, as this offseason is shaping up to be full of critical decisions that could define the team's immediate future. With trade whispers and extension talks beginning to heat up, the front office has a lot on its plate. And now, an outside perspective has added a new layer to the mix. We're diving deep into all of it. There's no sugarcoating it. The Knicks are heading into an offseason filled with difficult choices, especially when it comes to a few core players. Two names that stand out in this conversation are Mitchell Robinson and Mikal Bridges. With extension talks looming and potential moves on the table, the front office has big decisions to make. And while team president Leon Rose tends to keep things close to the vest, new developments are beginning to shape what might come next. NBA insider Ian Begley recently shared some key insights during his show, The Putback, revealing how things are currently being viewed, not just from the Knicks side, but from the players' camps as well. According to Begley, the vibe from Mitchell Robinson's circle just a week ago was that they expected to stay in New York. And while situations can change fast in the NBA, that kind of confidence likely reflects what the front office is thinking internally, too. Now, for those thinking Robinson staying in New York is a no-brainer, remember that his contract situation adds a layer of complexity. And let's get something straight. This isn't about trying to ship him out. In fact, Robinson is beloved by many fans, but that doesn't change the fact that he's been involved in trade discussions before. There were even reports that during the Knicks' attempt to land Karl Anthony Towns, Robinson was included in a proposed deal along with Julius Randle and a first-rounder. The Wolves reportedly countered, asking for Donte DiVincenzo instead. That particular trade never materialized, but it showed the front office was open to moving Mitch. Injuries have also been a concern throughout his career, which makes the idea of extending him a calculated risk. Still, Robinson brings things to the table that are hard to find elsewhere. He's arguably the league's top offensive rebounder, an elite rim protector, and the backbone of the Knicks' defense. Players like that aren't easy to replace, especially if you're a team trying to compete at the highest level. Robinson himself has spoken about trade rumors in the past. On an episode of the Roommates podcast, Jalen Brunson asked him directly how it felt to always be in the trade rumor mill. Mitch's response was cool and nonchalant, something along the lines of, "It doesn't really affect me. If it happens, it happens." His laid-back attitude suggests he either expects to stay or is at peace with whatever may come. But as it stands today, he's still a Knick and still playing a big role in their plan. When you break it down, Robinson's contributions are hard to overstate. He finished the playoffs averaging 5 points, 7 rebounds, and nearly 4 offensive boards per game. Add in a steal and a block per night, and it's clear he was a difference maker, even though he wasn't fully healthy. The Knicks are banking on continued recovery and conditioning to keep him ready moving forward. Injuries have been a hurdle, no doubt, but the team's recent improvements in medical and performance staff, like hiring Casey Smith, seem to be paying off. This offseason may bring all kinds of changes to the Knicks roster, but as of now, Mitchell Robinson remains a crucial piece of the puzzle. His role as a defensive anchor isn't easily filled, and unless a can't-miss trade offer comes along, the smart move might just be keeping him right where he is. The Knicks are continuing to work closely with performance expert Casey Smith to develop a long-term strategy for keeping Mitchell Robinson healthy and on the court. His value to the team is simply too high to ignore. When he's available, Robinson makes a major difference in winning games, which makes the decision about his future even more complicated. He's entering the final year of his current contract, meaning the front office has 3 choices: let him hit the market, explore trade options, or lock him in with a contract extension. This week, a big development came out of Dallas that might influence what happens next. Shams Charania reported that Mavericks center Daniel Gafford is set to sign a 3-year extension worth nearly $60 million. That deal was hammered out between Mavs executives and Gafford's agents at Clutch Sports, locking him in through the 2028-29 season. Gafford earned it, too. He put up averages of 12 points, 7 boards, and 2 blocks per game, while shooting an incredible 70% from the field across 57 games. Gafford's new contract might just set the going rate for quality centers who defend, rebound, and finish efficiently. He averaged nearly 3 offensive boards per game and provided consistent rim protection, which naturally raises the question, how does Mitchell Robinson's value compare? NBA analysts Sam Quinn and Schwinapoo recently joined the Strickland podcast to share their views on the Knicks' options with both Miles Bridges and Mitchell Robinson. While both players were discussed, the conversation largely centered around Robinson's status. It's clear the Knicks are approaching a tough financial situation. They're already near the league's second luxury tax apron, and adding extensions for Robinson and Bridges will only tighten the cap further. Quinn and Schwinapoo pointed out the difficulty in finding a trade that brings back equal value if the team chooses to move on from Robinson. The reality is, it's nearly impossible. Given Gafford's $20 million per year deal, Robinson is likely to demand something in that same neighborhood. His representatives know the leverage they have. If the Knicks don't act, either by trading him or extending him, he could walk for nothing, and that's a risk the front office can't afford to take. At this point, the more probable outcome seems to be an extension. Trading Robinson might save money, but it would come at the cost of losing a uniquely impactful player. Knicks president Leon Rose made it clear after Tom Thibodeau's departure that the franchise's primary goal is to win a title. If that means crossing into the second tax apron, so be it. His message was simple. If you end up with a championship ring, the cap hit is worth it. That's why extending Robinson makes sense. Letting him leave would create a hole that's incredibly hard to fill. His skill set is rare. Elite offensive rebounding, rim protection, and the kind of physical presence that holds together a top-tier defense. Even in the postseason, while not fully healthy, he managed averages of 5 points, 7 rebounds, 3.7 offensive boards, a steal, and a block per game. Those numbers may not pop off the screen, but his impact is undeniable. Looking at other comparisons, the player who mirrors Robinson the most might be Steven Adams. Adams has put up similar playoff stats in the past, around 6 points, nearly 7 rebounds, and over 3 offensive boards per game, and landed a contract worth $13 million annually. Of course, Adams is older and recently missed an entire season due to a torn ACL, so his market was slightly different. So, where does that leave Robinson? He likely won't command the full $20 million Gafford got, but he's certainly worth more than Adams. A deal in the range of $17 million per year seems realistic. If the Knicks can secure him on a contract that starts high and declines over time, just like his last one, it could give them some flexibility while still keeping their anchor in place. The key takeaway: Mitchell Robinson isn't just another role player, he's a game changer when healthy. Letting him go for cap reasons would be a mistake the Knicks can't afford. Keeping him in New York should be a priority, even if it means some creative cap work to make it happen. It's understandable that Mitchell Robinson is getting so much attention, but the situation becomes even more interesting when you factor in Miles Bridges. If the Knicks decide to make a financial move involving Bridges, say, trading him or restructuring the cap space in some way, then keeping Robinson becomes much easier. The front office could simply hold on to him and move forward. This is something Keith Smith from Spotrac touched on recently. According to him, Jalen Brunson agreeing to a team-friendly extension has set a tone in New York's locker room. It created an expectation that Bridges would be open to doing the same. Smith laid out a potential structure, a deal in the $35 to $37 million range per season. He also suggested it might be a 3-year contract with a player option in the 3rd year, aligning it with the timelines of Brunson and OG Anunoby. That format makes sense for both the franchise and the player. Smith's estimate landed around 3 years and $111 million total, an average of $37 million per season. Personally, I think that's a fair deal. Yes, going that route pushes the Knicks into second apron territory, but if you're trying to win a championship next season, that's a price you pay. Smith also shared thoughts on Robinson, and that's where things get more complex. One potential scenario is Josh Hart becoming the 6th man, while Robinson remains in the starting lineup but plays limited minutes, maybe 20 to 25 per game. Alternatively, Robinson could slide into a high-energy bench role, but if the Knicks view him more as a backup than a core starter, then it's likely they'll hesitate to offer a big money extension. In that case, something like a 3-year deal worth about $48.8 million, $16 million annually, might be more realistic. That would fall in line with the lengths of other long-term contracts on the roster. It also protects the team from the injury risks that come with committing to Robinson for 4 years. Given his medical history, shorter-term flexibility is a smart move. Personally, I think Smith's proposals for both Bridges and Robinson are on point. I'd be happy with the team keeping both, even if it means crossing the second apron threshold. Of course, there's always a chance Leon Rose chooses a different direction. He didn't originally bring Mitchell Robinson into the organization, so he may feel less attached and be more willing to trade him to recoup assets. But if that's the path they take, the Knicks would still need to replace his defensive presence and rim-running ability. One option might be to use the taxpayer mid-level exception and go after someone like Clint Capella. But let's be honest, Capella isn't at Robinson's level, especially on defense. That would feel more like settling than upgrading. This situation has a lot of layers, and the decisions ahead won't be easy. But the overall takeaway is clear. If your main objective is to bring home a championship, the focus should be on the immediate future. The Knicks just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're about to hire a coach who should be a better fit for the current roster. That's momentum you don't want to mess with. Instead of tearing the team apart or swapping key players for minimal savings, why not reinforce what's already working? Use that mid-level exception on a solid rotation wing, someone like Karis LeVert or Luke Kennard, who can provide offense off the bench. That would add more depth without sacrificing your identity or defensive core. Trading Mitchell Robinson just to clear space and replace him with a downgrade doesn't move the needle in a positive direction. So what do you think the Knicks should do? This was definitely a longer breakdown, but there's a lot happening right now that deserves a deep dive. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Personally, I'm in favor of keeping Robinson. I know I said I'd break down both sides, and I did, but my stance remains. I want him to stay. Still, I get why the team might consider alternative. If you like this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. Also, turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. Things are moving fast this off-season. And, just for the record, I did bang my knee on the desk and almost knocked over the ring light during this take. So if you made it to the end, shout out to you. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And hey, this might just be our year. Go Knicks! Finals incoming! We've got some huge developments unfolding with the New York Knicks as team president Leon Rose continues the franchise's critical search for its next head coach. And today, that journey took a new step. Micah Nori, the top assistant for the Minnesota Timberwolves, officially met with the Knicks front office. There's a lot to unpack here, and honestly, I'm a big fan of this move for several reasons. But first, if you're not already subscribed, now's the time. This offseason is shaping up to be pivotal. Trades may be looming, free agency is almost here, and yes, the Knicks still need to hire a head coach. Plus, we're going live during both days of the NBA draft. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a moment of the action. Welcome back to the show. I'm Marshall Green, and we're diving into the latest on New York's coaching search. The third candidate to formally interview for the position is Micah Nori, who's been a vital part of the Timberwolves coaching staff. Honestly, I really appreciate that the Knicks are taking a serious look at someone like Nori. He brings more than just experience. He brings the kind of connection this roster might need. Even though he hasn't officially held a head coaching job in the NBA, Nori got meaningful on-court leadership experience last season. When Chris Finch was sidelined with a serious leg injury, Nori stepped in and guided the Timberwolves during the Western Conference playoffs. That alone gives him a unique edge. Plus, let's not ignore his connection to Karl Anthony Towns. If New York is planning to move forward with a core built around Jalen Brunson and possibly Towns, having a coach who understands Towns' personality and how to maximize his game is a massive advantage. The report came from Shams Charania, who revealed that Nori is now among the coaching candidates being seriously considered by the Knicks, alongside Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins, both former head coaches with playoff experience. James L. Edwards also chimed in, praising Nori's extensive background and calling him not just a brilliant basketball strategist, but also a truly great person. Edwards also highlighted Nori's role in Minnesota's offense during his time working with Town, and mentioned that players around the league speak very highly of him. Honestly, I didn't know much about Micah Nori until his name surfaced in this search. But the more I read and watch, the more impressed I am. You just don't see many coaches with such unanimous praise from both current and former players. Let's dig into his coaching background. Nori broke into the NBA with the Toronto Raptors in the late 90s, starting out as an intern before working his way up to an assistant coaching position under Jay Triano and Dwayne Casey from 2009 to 2013. He then joined Michael Malone's staff in Sacramento before following him to Denver. While with the Nuggets, he worked alongside Chris Finch and helped develop stars like Nikola Jokic. Later, he became a lead assistant for the Detroit Pistons under Casey once again, focusing primarily on offensive strategy. Most recently, Nori joined Minnesota's coaching staff in 2021. He reunited with Finch and quickly became known as one of his most trusted advisors, handling strategic rotations, sideline communication, and managing the finer details of in-game adjustments. When Finch suffered a torn patellar tendon last postseason, Nori took the reins and led the Wolves through that stretch. His name has started gaining traction around the league. He's already interviewed for head coaching jobs in Cleveland, Detroit, and Phoenix over the past 2 seasons. In an interview, Nori described his own role on the Timberwolves staff, saying he focuses heavily on game management, substitutions, and critical late-game decision-making. That's the kind of skill set the Knicks could use, especially as they continue to pursue a championship-caliber roster. Chris Finch had glowing remarks as well, describing Nori as someone operating on a different level, a coach who thinks through every in-game scenario, from when to foul to how to close out quarters, and someone who's fully dialed into every detail that impacts winning. That kind of analytical mindset, combined with a strong relationship with players, could be exactly what New York needs. There's no denying Nori's stock is rising fast. He's got the strategic brain, the respect of his peers, and leadership experience, even if it's not been in an official head coaching title just yet. His work with high-level talent like Jokic and Towns shows that he knows how to manage stars, and that's going to matter if the Knicks go after a big name this summer. Huge respect to one of the top Knicks sources online. New York Basketball shared a great quote from Anthony Edwards, who called Micah Nori a genius. That's not something you hear every day. With Nori emerging as a serious candidate for the Knicks' head coaching position, that kind of praise says a lot about the impression he made in Minnesota. And let's be honest, among all the potential coaches in the running, none have a closer working history with Karl Anthony Towns than Nori does. If the Knicks truly intend to build around Towns and Jalen Brunson, they'll need a head coach who not only understands their talents, but knows how to elevate them. Nori fits that mold. He was there before Gobert arrived, watching Towns shine at the 5, and continued working with him as he transitioned to the 4. Whether Nori sees him primarily as a power forward or a center, what matters most is his ability to unlock the best version of Towns, and he's proven he can. That's exactly why a coach like Nori makes so much sense. Unless a surprise blockbuster trade is around the corner, Towns isn't going anywhere. Bringing in someone who's already helped him thrive would be a smart move. Nori has even been seen in coaching sessions diagramming plays where Towns operates off the ball, highlighting his shooting ability and versatility, skills that could be a real asset in New York. But here's what really stands out. The fans in Minnesota. Scroll through social media, and it's clear they don't want to lose Nori. That kind of reaction speaks volume. It shows he's not only trusted by the front office and players, but also beloved by the people who watch the team night in and night out. It's rare for an assistant coach to receive that kind of public support. I've still got more thoughts about Nori's fit in New York, but in the meantime, go check out the latest Knicks gear online, especially with the 4th of July around the corner. It's a great time to rep your squad. So far, we know the Knicks have held interviews with Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown, and now Micah Nori. That's 3 candidates confirmed to be in the first round of talks. And now that we're roughly 3 weeks removed from Tom Thibodeau's dismissal, it's clear the front office isn't rushing, nor should they. With only one open head coaching job left in the league, this one, they can afford to take their time and find the best fit. And with the NBA draft right around the corner, the timing is interesting. I initially thought the front office would want a new coach in place before draft day, but Leon Rose and the Knicks appear to be comfortable playing the long game. Plus, one of the key voices in the front office, Gerson Rosas, previously worked for the Timberwolves, so it's likely he knows Nori well and might be lobbying for him behind the scene. Honestly, I'm fine with the Knicks being deliberate here. Take your time. Explore every possibility. Build out a wide pool of candidates, narrow it down, and make the right choice. That's what Leon Rose did with Thibodeau. It took 7 weeks and multiple interviews, but he found the guy he believed in. Now it's time to do that again. So, who do you want to see lead the Knicks into the next era? Is Nori your pick? Maybe Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. And don't forget to follow me on social media for updates on all things Knicks. We've got a big summer ahead. Shams Charania has dropped a significant development in the Knicks' ongoing hunt for a new head coach. New York isn't content with its initial shortlist. The front office has started widening the net, most recently conducting a formal interview with Timberwolves assistant coach Micah Nori, while top executive Leon Rose explores additional avenues. On top of that, there's fresh buzz surrounding one of the club's prime off-season targets. News that takes on extra weight thanks to Jason Kidd's situation elsewhere. We'll unpack it all in a moment. First, a quick shout-out to everyone tuning in. A huge subscriber milestone is within reach, and your support makes these deep dives possible. Now, let's dive straight into the latest. Until now, only 2 names, Taylor Jenkins and Mike Brown, had confirmed sit-downs with the Knicks brass. Charania's update makes it clear that those meetings were merely the opening salvo. With the NBA draft just a day away, New York has no intention of rushing a hire, and indications are that the decision might even linger into the early days of free agency. That timeline makes sense. The team isn't chasing a top-tier free agent class this summer and is instead eyeing mid-level exception pieces in the $6 million range. Those role players aren't likely to balk at a temporary coaching vacancy, especially if they're told which finalists remain in the mix. Enter Micah Nori. According to Shams, the Knicks recently interviewed the veteran Timberwolves assistant, adding him to the pool alongside the previously known candidate. Nori's resume stretches all the way back to his early 20s with the Toronto Raptors. He later joined Mike Malone's Denver staff and has spent the last several seasons as Chris Finch's lead lieutenant in Minnesota. League insiders describe Nori as a tactical savant with a knack for humor, qualities that make him both popular in locker rooms and formidable in pre-game prep. Need proof of his personality? Just replay any Timberwolves halftime interview. One moment he's deadpanning, "Boom, goes the dynamite," while breaking down transition defense. The next, he's joking that Phoenix caught us at the beach without sunscreen after an 0-3 regular season skid, only for Minnesota to flip the script and sweep the Suns in the 2024 playoff. Of course, wisecracks alone don't land a head coaching gig, but the anecdotes underline why so many players enjoy working with him. There's substance behind the charm. The Athletic recently praised Nori for his encyclopedic recall of opponent tendencies and his ability to slip blunt feedback between quips. Anthony Edwards raved, "Mike is a genius. He walked into the huddle, called out the exact play they were about to run, and that's exactly what happened." During Finch's ACL-related absence, Nori handled interim head coaching duties, providing him with a small but noteworthy taste of the main chair. The Knicks' interest in a Timberwolves assistant isn't random. New York previously placed a feeler on Finch himself before Minnesota shut down the notion. This time, the Wolves granted permission swiftly, underscoring Nori's sterling reputation around the league. Sources say he commands genuine respect as both a strategist and a locker room unifier, making him a compelling complement or alternative to the defense-first, film-obsessed profile Tom Thibodeau once embodied. So, what does this expanded search mean for the franchise's timetable? Most signs point to a deliberate process. New York can still run pre-draft workouts and free agency pitches while narrowing its coaching shortlist behind the scene. Prospective signings will be briefed on finalists, ensuring transparency even if the formal hire isn't announced until July. Meanwhile, the Knicks' roster plans remain active. The front office continues to monitor potential trade scenarios and free agent fits, all while juggling cap flexibility and draft capital. Rumblings suggest the club is monitoring situations influenced by Jason Kidd's decision, hinting that certain players could become attainable depending on how the Mavericks reshuffle. As always, the big questions hang in the air. Will New York pull the trigger on an established name like Brown or Jenkins, or roll the dice on a fresh voice such as Nori? How heavily will Leon Rose weigh veteran gravitas against young player development? And do the Knicks have another surprise candidate waiting in the wings? The coming days promise clarity, just not immediately. For now, Knicks fans can pencil Micah Nori onto the running list, join the debate over fit and philosophy, and keep one eye on draft night chaos. Who ultimately takes the Madison Square Garden sidelines remains uncertain, but one thing is obvious: the search committee is determined to get this hire exactly right. Stay tuned, share your thoughts below, and buckle up for what should be a fascinating next chapter in New York's ongoing rebuild-turned-relaunch. Shams Charania has just offered a fresh twist in New York's protracted coaching hunt, and the organization's talent acquisition radar has grown wider than first believed. According to the latest reporting, team president Leon Rose granted another formal interview, this time to Minnesota Timberwolves assistant Micah Nori, while simultaneously investigating alternative routes on the roster-building front. Separately, there's been movement on one of the franchise's top player targets, a storyline complicated by Jason Kidd's influence elsewhere. We'll sift through every angle in detail. Before diving in, it's worth noting how far this process has stretched. When word first leaked that New York had conducted sit-downs with Taylor Jenkins and Mike Brown, many assumed the shortlist would tighten quickly. Instead, the front office has taken its time, knowing the NBA draft is only a day away and that a final coaching decision could linger into the early stages of free agency. Because the club expects to chase mid-level exception contributors rather than headline-grabbing stars, executives believe the absence of an official coach won't spook those role players. Each candidate still in the running will be disclosed to prospective signings during negotiation. Enter Micah Nori, the long-tenured Timberwolves lieutenant. Charania's scoop confirms that Nori recently completed a comprehensive interview alongside the previously reported sessions with Jenkins and Brown. Nori's career arc began in Toronto, pivoted through Mike Malone's staffs in Sacramento and Denver, and eventually led to Minnesota, where he's been Chris Finch's top deputy for 4 seasons. Around the league, insiders swear by his encyclopedic recall of opponents' tendencies and his ability to inject levity into video sessions without sacrificing accountability. Timberwolves fans, for their part, are bracing for the possibility of losing a beloved figure. Social media has filled with laments like, "I knew this was coming, but I'm nowhere near ready to say goodbye." Those sentiments have roots in a string of memorable halftime quips. Whether comparing the Suns' regular season sweep to catching us at the beach without sunscreen, or punctuating a fast break analysis with "boom goes the dynamite," Nori's on-camera charisma is undeniable. Humor alone won't clinch a head coaching gig, yet it underscores why players speak so freely of his locker room value. Substance matches personality. The Athletic recently highlighted examples of Nori predicting opponents' sets down to the smallest detail. Anthony Edwards recalled a timeout where Nori sketched an exact play The Suns then ran on the very next possession. When Finch tore his ACL late last season, Nori guided Minnesota through playoff preparation, earning de facto head coaching reps that impressed executives around the league. Because Chris Finch's job security is solid, Nori's best shot at a lead role lies elsewhere, and New York currently owns the league's lone vacant bench. Given that context, an array of assistants and ex-head coaches have angled for meetings in Manhattan. Jenkins and Brown each completed multi-day interviews last week, and both remain front-runner. Even so, Rose's pattern is clear. Prioritize candidates who can forge instant chemistry with the roster's marquee talent. Consider the common thread. Jenkins worked with an athletic point guard and a floor-spacing big. Brown orchestrated a system around an all-star playmaker center pairing. Nori has coaxed nuanced passing from Karl Anthony Towns while supporting Anthony Edwards' rise. Each scenario mirrored, at least structurally, the Brunson-Towns axis New York may hope to construct. That vision underlines why Nori's resume resonates. A quick chronology illustrates his breadth of influence. Raptors advanced scout for more than a decade, Kings assistant under Malone, Nuggets assistant during Nikola Jokic's developmental surge, Pistons aide to Dwayne Casey, and finally Finch's right hand in Minnesota. The irony? He once played college baseball, proof of the varied path that fostered his trademark wit. Colleagues describe him as brutally honest yet disarmingly funny, a rare balance that tightens locker room trust. Fans scanning Twitter for breadcrumbs have noticed another connective tissue. Gerson Rosas, now in New York's front office, overlapped with Nori in Minnesota. That relationship could smooth negotiations if Rose ultimately extends an offer. Still, nothing is decided. With the draft looming and free agency close behind, New York can continue vetting candidates while simultaneously plotting trade and signing scenarios shaped by Kidd's strategic pivot in Dallas. So, what's next? Expect more leaks about finalists, more second-round interviews, and perhaps a surprise name or two. The franchise will weigh veteran gravitas against developmental vision, defensive acumen against offensive creativity, and personality fit against media market pressure. Whether the nod goes to a seasoned skipper like Brown, a modern tactician like Jenkins, or the charismatic newcomer Nori, the decision will ripple through every summer move. One thing is certain, the process won't be rushed simply to satisfy the news cycle. New York's leadership believes it must get this hire right, not merely for the upcoming season, but for an organizational trajectory that hinges on optimizing its core stars and maintaining asset flexibility. Until the announcement drops, debate will rage over who should occupy the sideline seat and which X&O philosophy best elevates a roster itching to make the next leap. Keep the notifications on, contribute your thoughts in the comments, and buckle up. The Knicks coaching saga is only growing more intriguing by the hour. If Mike Brown ultimately lands the Knicks head coaching post, conventional wisdom says he and Jalen Brunson should mesh nicely. Yet Brown isn't the only candidate drawing serious attention. League insiders confirm that New York has also shown interest in former Mavericks assistant Sean Sweeney, who just accepted an associate head coach role with the Spurs. According to Dallas beat reporter Brad Townsend, the Knicks recently reached out to gauge Sweeney's availability. Around the league, he's viewed as a future bench boss after interviewing for several openings. If San Antonio turns the corner quickly, and many expect it will, Sweeney's head coaching window could open even wider. His rapid ascent underscores how volatile the coaching carousel has become. In recent years, multiple coaches of the year have been dismissed not long after receiving the trophy. Tom Thibodeau is now the lone survivor from that award cycle. Against that backdrop, it's hardly surprising that New York's front office is casting a broad net. Timberwolves assistant Micah Nori, an analytics-savvy motivator with a knack for humor, is also on the interview list. While his personality makes him a fan favorite, many analysts still see him as an under-the-radar option, rather than the frontrunner. One notable shift, Leon Rose appears more open to candidates who have never held a head coaching job. The precedent for first-year success is strong. Steve Kerr captured a title in his debut season with Golden State, And Joe Mazzulla guided Boston to the NBA Finals within 2 years. That track record suggests New York could thrive under a rookie skipper, provided the fit is right. Expect the search to intensify over the coming weeks as the organization balances experience, player development, and cultural chemistry. Does Nori's film room brilliance outweigh his lack of head coach mileage? Could Sweeney's defensive scheming and recent Spurs pedigree push him to the front of the line? Or does Brown's established resume give him the inside track? Share your pick for New York's next coach, and stay tuned as the decision draws closer. No one ever wants to see star athletes go down with major injuries, but sadly, that's exactly what unfolded in the Eastern Conference playoff. Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, and Damian Lillard all suffered torn Achilles tendon, a brutal blow for them, their teams, and the league. Our thoughts are with each of them and their families. But as tough as it is to say, this kind of thing is part of the sport, and unfortunately, these injuries have now completely altered the outlook for the New York Knicks. If you're someone who wants to see the Knicks make a run to the NBA Finals next year, because I believe the Eastern Conference is now wide open, hit that like button right now. You could be the good luck they need. You're watching Mundo del Baloncesto, and I'm your host, bringing you all the latest surrounding this dramatic NBA offseason. First off, major congratulations go out to the Oklahoma City Thunder, your 2025 NBA champion. At the same time, I want to extend heartfelt thoughts to Tyrese Halliburton, the Indiana Pacers, and also to Tatum and Lillard, who suffered season-ending injuries. This is heartbreaking. These Achilles injuries are becoming a major concern. I read that there were 8 such injuries across the league this season, and 3 of those hit star players during critical playoff runs. That's far too many, and something has to be done. And while we never celebrate another team's misfortune, these events have undeniably reshaped the Eastern Conference. Truthfully, I'm not happy about any of this. I said the same thing live on our channel during the Celtics game when Tatum went down. I said, I wish he was okay. I wish Halliburton and Lillard were healthy too. I wanted the Knicks to get to the top by beating the best. But the reality is, things have changed, and fast. Now, with those players out of the picture, Las Vegas sportsbooks have moved the Knicks up the board. In fact, they now have New York as one of the favorites to win the Eastern Conference and make the finals. The Knicks currently sit tied with the Houston Rockets for second-best odds to win it all at plus 750, just behind the Thunder, who remain favorites to repeat at plus 240. Right after comes Cleveland at minus 900, followed by a sharp drop in the odds for other teams. The point is, the path is now more open than ever, and this means Leon Rose has some critical decisions ahead. The Knicks must take advantage of this rare opportunity, where some of the conference's top threats are temporarily weakened. It all begins with the coaching search. Then comes free agency, the trade market, and of course the NBA draft, where the Knicks own the 50th overall pick. Can they strike gold that late in the draft? Maybe. But this entire offseason is about more than just one pick. This is about putting together a roster that can compete at the highest level. This might be the most important summer in Leon Rose's tenure. He already made a huge move by parting ways with Tom Thibodeau. And when he made that decision, he publicly declared, "Our organization is solely focused on winning a championship for our fans." That's a serious message, and it tells me he's ready to make bold moves to push the team forward. But let's be honest, firing Thibs can't be the only bold decision. Even critics of Thibodeau would agree he wasn't the only issue. The turnovers against Indiana, the lack of consistent outside shooting, the failure to execute in crunch time, the defensive breakdowns, those were all major reasons why the Knicks fell short. I could list issues for an hour and still not be done, and I wouldn't even have gotten to Game 1 yet. The Knicks are close, very close. But if the only change is at head coach, it won't be enough. This roster needs reinforcement, and that's going to require some creativity. The Knicks don't have loads of cap space. They don't have a mountain of draft picks to swing blockbuster trades. Leon Rose will have to find smart, efficient ways to reshape the team. They'll likely lean on the taxpayer mid-level exception, which isn't huge, And yes, they can sign veteran minimum players, but those types of signings rarely move the needle when you're chasing a championship. So here's the question. Is this current group, built last summer, enough to make a real run? Or does the front office need to make some serious changes to get this team over the hump? Because time is ticking, and the window might never be this open again. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is Mundo del Baloncesto, and we'll be covering every twist and turn of this critical Knicks offseason. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming your way. Giving a free agent a 2-year, $1.66 million deal. Will that alone take the Knicks closer to winning a championship? Maybe not by itself, but here's what we know. The Knicks aren't the only team looking at the current state of the Eastern Conference and thinking, this is our chance. The door is open, and everyone knows it. The Knicks finished second in the East last season. Now the challenge is figuring out how to take that final step and finish first. I have more thoughts on that coming up, but before we dive deeper, a quick reminder, Mundo del Baloncesto will be going live for the NBA Draft on both Wednesday and Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The first round happens Wednesday, the second round follows Thursday, and we'll be breaking down every single pick with a focus on the New York Knicks, who hold the 50th selection. If you want the most complete draft coverage on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, back to business. We all saw what happened in the NBA Finals. Thoughts and best wishes go out to Jason Tatum and others dealing with injuries. With all that said, the Eastern Conference is wide open, and it's time to ask, who are the real threats to the Knicks on their path to the NBA Final? Let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the team that won nearly 60 games last season and finished at the top of the East. They're returning most of their core: Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. They still have DeAndre Hunter, a strong bench, and depending on how things shake out in free agency, they could even re-sign Ty Jerome. Cleveland is ready to compete again, and honestly, a Knicks versus Cavs Eastern Conference Finals matchup would be incredible. Two hard-nosed squads going head-to-head. But if the Knicks want to guarantee a win over Cleveland, they probably still need one more high-impact piece, either off the bench or in the starting five. Another rising threat, the Orlando Magic. They just pulled off a huge move by trading 4 first-round picks to land Desmond Bane from Memphis. That gives them a lethal shooter to pair with Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and, of course, Paolo Banchero. Orlando's biggest issue last year was perimeter shooting, and Bane solves that instantly. He can hit threes off the catch, off the dribble, and from 28 feet out. He fits perfectly, and this trade might be the move that takes the Magic to a level we haven't seen from them in over a decade. Don't overlook the Detroit Pistons either. The Knicks needed 6 games to eliminate them in round 1, and that was arguably the weakest version of Detroit they'll face in this era. Cade Cunningham is just getting started. I think he's a future MVP candidate. He's a 6'8" floor general who can do everything. Jaden Ivey didn't even suit up in that series, and guys like Ozar Thompson, Joe Harris, and Jalen Duren are only getting better. If they re-sign Dennis Schroeder or bring back Malik Beasley, this team could grow quickly. They're young, but they're hungry, and they're coming. Another team to monitor, the Atlanta Hawks. Maybe it's just that the Knicks always seem to have a tough time with them, but I'm not ready to count them out. Trae Young, in my opinion, still has what it takes to lead a team to a playoff series win, but the real X factor is Jalen Johnson. He quietly averaged 19 points, 10-plus rebounds, and 5 assists last season, and no one seems to be talking about him. If he stays healthy, he could become one of the East's breakout stars. Throw in Onyeka Okongwu, who continues to improve, and Tyson Daniels, who's emerged as an elite defensive presence. And this is a dangerous group. I'm telling you now, if Johnson stays on the floor and keeps developing, Atlanta will be a serious problem. Now, back to the competition. It's hard to fully count out certain teams. The Boston Celtics, for example, are likely going to be without Jason Tatum for a good portion of next season. But if he's able to return by playoff time, Boston could be right back in the mix. And if they do come back healthy, and with momentum, they'll be just as dangerous as ever. It's still unclear what direction the Celtics will take this offseason, but one thing's for sure, you can never fully count them out. Something may be brewing at TD Garden, and with Brad Stevens still calling the shots, Boston will always be in the mix. If they hang on to Kristaps Porzingis, and with Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Peyton Pritchard still on the roster, that's a team with serious depth and experience. Even with the injury concerns, you also have to give credit to the Indiana P. Yes, without Tyrese Halib, on Andrew Nemb, C. Benedict Mathurin is S. And then there's Giannis A. No matter where, Adamia isn't B. Sure, but they still have the pieces to make trades, reshuffle, and become dangerous again. Giannis alone can win a playoff series. On any given night, he might be the best player in the world. That's not someone you write off. As for the Miami Heat, let's be honest, on paper, the roster isn't all that impressive right now. I don't believe Tyler Herro is good enough to be a legit second option on a championship team. I also don't think Bam Adebayo can be the #1 guy on a title contender. But for some reason, every time you're ready to count Miami out, they pull off something unbelievable in the playoffs. It's like there's something special in the water down in South Beach. And as long as Eric Spoelstra is coaching that team, they'll always have a puncher's chance, especially in a weakened Eastern Conference. So now I want to hear from you. Who do you think is the biggest threat to the New York Knicks right now in the East? Personally, I'd say the Cleveland Cavaliers are still the top competition, with the Orlando Magic coming in right behind them. But, honestly, you could make a case for any of the teams we talked about today. This could be a turning point for the New York Knicks. After a blockbuster move just shook up the NBA and shifted the balance for multiple teams, it looks like Leon Rose and the Knicks are getting ready to make their move. There's a player they've been keeping tabs on for quite a while, and that possibility just became significantly more tangible. And yes, you saw Devin Booker in the thumbnail, so let's not pretend otherwise. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. Chris here with another big update. As always, thank you for the incredible support. And hey, if you're one of the 71% of viewers who hasn't subscribed yet, this is the perfect time. We're dropping fresh Knicks videos every single day, and our weekly Friday live stream is just one of the many ways we're keeping things fun and interactive around here. With free agency and trade rumors flying in, we'll likely be going live multiple times a week. Also, our YouTube shorts will be returning soon, so stay tuned for that as well. Now, let's get into it. The league just got rocked, and with that, Leon Rose is positioning himself to act fast. It's official, Kevin Durant, who's changed teams more times than anyone can count, has been dealt again. The Phoenix Suns decided to part ways with him, sending KD to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green. The report, broken by Shams Charania, stated that Durant is heading to Houston while Phoenix receives Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, and 5 future second-rounders. Durant was undeniably elite last season. He averaged 26.6 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, a block per game, and nearly a steal. He was incredibly efficient too, 53% shooting from the field, 43% from deep, and a lethal 50% on corner 3. But what does this mean for the Knicks? First off, let's acknowledge reality. Kevin Durant, a prolific scorer who's been loosely tied to New York since 2016, is almost certainly never going to play in a Knicks jersey. Not now, not ever. And honestly, the Knicks were never in serious pursuit of him during this most recent window. KD himself didn't list New York as a preferred destination, and the feeling was mutual. The Knicks weren't interested in shipping out players like Karl Anthony Towns or several assets to bring in a 36-year-old veteran on the tail end of his prime. So Phoenix, realizing things weren't working and needing to pivot, moved Durant to Houston, a team that could absolutely use a scorer and veteran presence on the wing. And from the Rockets' perspective, this is a smart pickup. Jalen Green, while still brimming with potential, didn't fit their long-term vision. Getting Durant instantly raises their ceiling. Now, none of that directly involves the Knicks, at least not yet. But here's where it gets interesting. The aftermath of this deal opens a window of opportunity for New York. Phoenix, with Durant gone, is clearly retooling. And for a player of Durant's age and contract situation, the Suns actually got decent value. 5 second-round pick, a top 10 pick in this year's draft, and Jalen Green, who still holds upside. They even added Dillon Brooks, a tough two-way guy who, while polarizing, can still contribute and round out a roster. But here's the angle we care about. Devin Booker, the franchise star who's been tied to the Knicks in rumors for years. If there's ever been a moment where Booker might reconsider his loyalty to Phoenix, it's now. This trade left the Suns with a young and uncertain core. Sure, Green is flashy and Brooks is gritty, but losing a player like Durant weakens the roster, especially short-term. Let's not sugarcoat it. Phoenix took a step backward. Whether or not it pays off in the long run, they are undoubtedly less dangerous today than they were yesterday. They no longer have one of the top 10-12 players in the league. Durant's gone, and while Booker is still there, and undeniably elite, he's been patient with this franchise for years. Outside of one deep playoff run that ended in an NBA Finals loss, success has been limited. In their last postseason appearance, the Suns bowed out in round 2 against the eventual champion, the Denver Nuggets. And it wasn't Booker's fault. He was spectacular, averaging 33.7 points, 7.2 assists, and 5 rebounds in 11 playoff games, logging nearly 42 minutes a night. The guy has done everything asked of him and more. So, what happens now? If Phoenix decides to lean into a rebuild, or even just reconfigure their roster around youth and depth, Booker might see this as the time to move on. The Knicks, with the assets, young talent, and a stable front office, might finally be in the position to strike. And that's why this trade, while seemingly distant from New York, could have huge ripple effects in the near future. He was hitting 58% from the field and an insane 51% from beyond the arc. He was absolutely on fire, practically impossible to defend. We'll circle back to what a potential trade could look like, but first, there's something crucial we need to highlight. Based on what we've seen from that brief look at a hypothetical deal, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Devin Booker actually wants to be a New York Knick. According to Stephen A. Smith, there's buzz around the league, though not something Booker would ever confirm publicly, that he's had his eyes on New York. Smith even admitted he hasn't talked to Booker directly, but the word going around the NBA is that the guy wouldn't mind heading to the Big Apple. And when you look at the overall landscape, that rumor checks out. Now Booker just got a new teammate in Jalen Green, a young scorer who averaged over 21 points per game last season, alongside 4.6 rebounds and 3.4 assists. He adds about a steal per game too. However, he's not known for his defense and struggled with efficiency, hitting just 42% of his shots from the floor and 35% from deep. Contrast that with Booker, who posted 25.6 points a night, along with 7 assists and 4 rebounds. He also averaged a steal per game and has made major strides on the defensive end. Sure, his shooting numbers dipped a bit this past season, but we all know what kind of marksman he really is. Nobody's doubting he'll bounce back. Booker's name has been consistently floated alongside the Knicks. This isn't new, and it's not just Stephen A. Bleacher Report recently spotlighted the Knicks as a serious team to watch if Booker ever hits the market. According to them, any move to bring Booker to NYC would likely need a third team involved, and Phoenix would need a compelling reason, like a reunion with Mikal Bridges, to even consider it. But from Booker's perspective, if he were picking an ideal destination, New York makes a lot of sense. Big-time market? Check. Elite point guard in Jalen Brunson, who could replicate what Chris Paul did for Booker in Phoenix? Check. A system that needs another creator who can generate offense on his own? Absolutely. Bleacher Report even speculated that if New York did land Booker, they could turn around and trade Karl Anthony Towns elsewhere. In that case, they wouldn't need Cat's offensive production as badly, with another All-NBA caliber guard now in the mix. And let's be real, Towns' inability to anchor a solid defense was exposed all year. Brunson has been clutch as ever for the Knicks. but Booker could give them the firepower to close games earlier instead of waiting for late-game heroic. There's also a different possibility. Instead of sending Towns out, what if the Knicks paired Booker and Towns together? They've been close for years. Remember, they were college teammates, and we've seen the Knicks go after college reunions before. R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish were one, Brunson and Josh Hart another. They even made a run at Zion. Later, they brought in Donte DiVincenzo, though it looks like he might be part of a trade-out. Most recently, they added Mikal Bridges in a massive deal. This franchise loves connection. The challenge? Assets. The Knicks don't have an overwhelming pile of trade chips. Same situation as when people talked about Giannis or other stars. If they want Booker, they'd have to get his commitment on an extension before finalizing a trade. That's the key piece. One of the trade ideas floating around includes New York acquiring Devin Booker and Nick Richards. Now, fans noticed the proposal didn't align perfectly with salary cap tools like Fanspo. It hadn't been updated yet post-Durant trade, but let's assume the logistics can be worked out. In that scenario, the Knicks would send out Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Mitchell Robinson, 3 players who've been crucial to the team's identity. And yes, they'd thin out their depth significantly. Nick Richards is a capable center, someone I personally like a lot. But you can't ignore the impact of losing those 3. Fanspo estimated the Knicks would lose 5 more games over a season without that trio. And honestly, that's believable. Hart is the team's Swiss Army knife. Robinson is an elite paint presence, and Bridges contributes on both ends. It would be a massive swing and strip the bench of quality depth. So what's the alternative? They could look into moving Karl Anthony Towns instead, or they could structure a more complex 3-team deal. Either way, they'd be sending out a ton of salary, and most of it is tied to guys who matter. But here's the thing people forget in all this. Everyone says, oh, the Knicks won't trade that guy, he's important. But Devin Booker isn't just a guy, he's a franchise-altering, superstar-level talent. When someone like that becomes available, nobody should be untouchable. Everyone assumed Donte DiVincenzo was untouchable. The thought of the Knicks ever dealing him seemed off the table. He's been viewed as a vital piece, someone they truly value. So why would they move him? Simple. When a legitimate NBA superstar is on the line, priorities shift. If the return involves someone like Karl Anthony Towns, suddenly nobody is off-limit. Except, of course, for Jalen Brunson. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking the Knicks are hesitant to make tough decisions. They aren't. Julius Randle might be part of that conversation too. The truth is, if you're not named Jalen Brunson, your name can come up in trade talks. That's how Leon Rose operates. He's building to win, not to keep the same faces around for comfort. Players like Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart have already been linked to recent trade rumors. Personally, I don't think Hart will be moved. And Bridges? Only if something huge falls into their lap, something game-changing. A deal involving a player like Jaren Jackson Jr. or, even more tantalizing, Devin Booker, is when these conversations become truly serious. And let's be honest, the player I feel for most in today's NBA landscape is Devin Booker. Yes, that comment was made days ago, but it still rings true. The guy is arguably on par with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, maybe not quite better, but not far off either. The problem? Basketball's a team sport, and Booker is stuck in a franchise that seems more focused on playing NBA 2K than building a sustainable contender. Putting Booker next to Jalen Green and Bradley Beal isn't just awkward, it's a mess. That's not a big 3. That's a chemistry experiment gone wrong. If there were ever a time for Booker to request a change of scenery, it's now. And the Knicks? They've already been linked to him as a potential destination. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if New York has already checked in on him, or is planning to soon. We know how this front office works. Leon Rose and his team are known for working the phones non-stop. They're always probing other GMs to get a read on player value. They do it with coaching hires too. Think about it. When they were looking for a coach, they didn't hesitate to ask other teams, what would it take to interview your guy? What's the cost in compensation? That same logic applies to players. They'll reach out to teams just to understand the market. What's your asking price for this guy? How much would it take? not necessarily to make a deal right away, but to gather intel, to feed into one of the largest analytics departments in the entire league. That attention to detail is a big reason why the Knicks reached the Eastern Conference Finals last season. And now, it's all about taking the final leap, getting to the finals, and more importantly, winning it all. Adding Devin Booker into the mix unquestionably increases their chances. And it's not just about talent, there's history here. Leon Rose has had an interest in Devin Booker dating back to the moment he stepped into the Knicks' front office. That interest never faded. And then there's the Karl Anthony Towns connection, Booker's longtime friend and former college teammate. The dots connect more than people realize. So, what do you think? Could this really happen? Could New York actually pull it off and bring Booker to Madison Square Garden? With everything lining up, from internal interest to external conditions, it doesn't seem out of reach anymore. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on those post notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comment. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and as always, go Knicks!